This conference will now be recorded.
Noise or was it quiet?
It was quiet. Yeah, it was quiet.
Okay, great. I'm used to the
You are now
recording and like, okay, that's the start. All right, well, thanks everyone for coming or showing up online. We don't have a meeting today. We have a workshop to talk about the draft MTP, and I just have a couple slides. Staff has a couple slides, and then mostly want to leave some space if there are any questions or comments for staff on the document. I know it's a lot, very long, and we send it on Friday, so if there's not many comments right now, that's understandable. Just trying to provide a space for that. Want to start off with an overview, just the kind of the table of contents of what the MTP is made up of. We have an introduction and then a chapter on the requirements of MTP and the process for how we got to how we should develop the goals, the vision, some of the strategies for the plan, how the rest of it's going to fill out. And we have a chapter on demographics, which is mostly just talking about where we are and where we're expected to be by 2050. The regional roadways chapter kind of gives a summary, brief summaries of the major roadways in the region, and then there's also some stuff that's pulled from the regional multimodal plan that talks about like street design, roadway design, and functional classification, things like that. Public transportation, talks mostly about the HOP. Bike and pedestrian is active transportation focused. The multimodal chapter, it talks about freight and rail and air transportation in the region. And then safety and congestion are self-explanatory. Environment, also fairly self-explanatory. I think there's this whole section in there on air quality, because that's kind of a big deal for transportation. And then some things on environmentally sensitive areas and just how that stuff impacts transportation, maybe a little bit on sustainability. And then chapter 11 is financial, and that talks about how the plan is fiscally constrained. These are pretty much what staff did during to get to the draft plan. And as you all should know, we shared at the last TAC meeting, chapters 2 and chapters 5 were completely rewritten. We shared those. They're basically there as they were, what we shared last month. The one other chapter that we basically rewrote was the chapter 1 introduction. There used to be 2 chapters, introduction and organization. We combined those into one, took a lot of extraneous stuff out and simplified it. Felt like it was cleaner that way. And then for the rest of the chapters, 3, 4, and 6 to 11, there were changes made to all of those, mostly removing outdated information and either updating it, or if it wasn't relevant anymore, we just took it out completely. And then we're also, I don't know if we actually made this, but we are going to change the title of 6 to transportation instead of bike and pedestrian, which is more in alignment with what the transportation industry is now using. So yeah, those are the changes. I do have another slide on kind of next steps and after the public comment period where some other changes we're potentially thinking of that might show up in the final draft, and then where we want to go after. But before I go there, if there are any questions or comments from the room or anyone online about the plan, and happy to answer those as we can. Or,
Just housekeeping wise,
Yeah.
I don't know about the ones in the book. The copy that I had didn't have the table of contents in it. I assume you guys will clean that up.
yeah,
And page numbers in the footer and maybe possibly chapter labels.
Yeah, in the footer.
Something like that, yeah.
yeah, this next month, we'll be working on all of the formatting things, the table of contents. There's a bunch of appendices that will be added. We were trying to focus on getting the content to where it's gonna be, and then all of that will be complete by the time the final draft is presented in July. Great question.
One of the things that, since you're sitting there, I saw that there was some discussion on the microtransit.
Yeah.
But would it be useful, or I think it's important to document, which y'all did with all the public hearings, the training y'all been going out to some of the residential housing areas and, you know, the one we had at the Temple Library, just to show that ahead of this paradigm shift, you know, you've gone out, you've met with the cities, met with the residents, and documented the numbers, the diversity of the folks that came out. I sat next to a visually disabled lady. There's folks there with scooters and folks that were not advocating for themselves, but were advocating for others.
Yeah, we can put that in. We were doing such a complete rewrite.
Sure.
Getting rid of all that clunky history and just rewriting microtransit and future projects that really didn't think too much about that connection, but that would be an easy thing to add.
Yeah, no problem. You wouldn't want to toot your own horn, but I would.
Yeah, we can add something in there about that. It is important, just the public outreach and the process that we've gone through. It's been really good. So. Okay.
Is there a need, James? I know we have to update this every 5 years. I need to maybe reference somewhere in one of the chapters where we'll do amendments and reviews periodically or annually to see, you know, like the microtransit thing. That may take off and that makes part of the transit section irrelevant. Projects as they get completed, you know, things like that.
Yeah, there was, I read through it the other day, and Jason, I saw some of your comments in there. One of them in chapter 5 dealt with our current fleet numbers per se. I think you were suggesting maybe we should add the microtransit vehicles in. I debated with that in my mind. The numbers that are in there right now come straight out of our TAMP.
Yeah.
The Transit Asset Management Plan. And it's important that we keep all of our numbers the same. But this document, in terms of timing, we are launching microtransit in July. By the way, it'll be July 16th. Is Tuesday, July 16th is the launch date. And so it's kind of current in this, but in actually writing it right now, it's still future. And then the other reason I kept it the same with just our current numbers is we don't really know what our final vehicle count is going to be until we get probably a good 6 to 12 months worth of data.
Right, and that's why I'm thinking, is it
appropriate
to put in there, not to shoot ourselves in the foot or tie ourselves into anything, but to say we'll review and amend, you know.
Yeah, the vehicle count.
Or anything in the plan, we'll do a review annually or every 2 years, something.
Right.
It would be easier to do it a a bite at a time, once a year, once every 2 years, instead of a big bite
Right.
every 5 years, to be honest.
Well, and you're moving way faster than this plan gets updated.
Yeah.
So it probably isn't urgent to get the numbers now. Yeah.
But that would allow, even if on the text outside, there are some changes, that we need to incorporate, or depending on administration and legislation, we can go in and make those change amendments. So it's not just a 5-year document, it's a 5-year living document.
And maybe we do this when we pass some changes to our development code, to put in a clause that this will be reevaluated, and the results of that evaluation, in 12 months, we're going to bring this back to council, and let's see how it worked. If something didn't work, we did this, we did standards, we did it when we had our food truck ordinance, that, let it run for 12 months and see what is working and what is not. With the food truck, there was a lot that was not. So when they came back to council, there was a whole ton of amendments to maybe that section of the code. But part of it, you just had to get it into practice, because theory and reality are two different things. So maybe to do something like that, it's launch the microtransit and come back in a year or 18 months, whatever, time frame works.
Well, and not just micro transit, but the multimodal section.
Sure.
We have anything happening, and any of those other sections, the roadway.
Yep.
That things in there may change, and I'm just thinking it may be appropriate to set some type of guiding principle on how often we update those or amend the NTP.
We can add something in at the end of chapter 2, because that talks about the whole adoption process. And we'll just add a paragraph or something talking about what that process looks like. That'll be easy.
Overall, I think it's a good document. It's a big improvement. I know our chapter, I hated our chapter. It was painful reading through that. It's just a
We had
chore.
conversations. I recall.
So we cleaned up a lot of that stuff. So it's still not perfect, but it's a much better, much easier read now.
I know air quality is in here, James. Do we anticipate there being any changes, like they talked about before, reducing that number to where it might drive us into non-attainment?
I think the last I've heard is the earliest that would come into, they would make a decision, it won't be till 2025, and then it's another 2-3 years until that actually comes into effect. So I think we're okay for now.
Didn't we say we were talking about adding another chapter? Maybe.
Yeah. I'll go to, so since we're talking about future, a couple other things that we're looking at maybe altering for the final version is reordering a couple of the chapters, specifically the public transportation, bike, pedestrian, multimodal, just for better flow. The multimodal chapter kind of talks about trains and freight, and so there was some connection between public transit and multimodal. We thought it would be better if those were next to each other rather than separated by the new active transportation chapter. I already mentioned the active transportation chapter might be renamed. We might rename a couple others. And then going forward, and this would be with future amendments, Your Honor, I discussed adding an innovation chapter, since that was a real big topic of discussion when we had our steering committee meetings. We didn't have time to get that in this version, so that would be a future amendment, but there was talk about that. And then some of the other chapters that we didn't spend as much time on, like specifically the environment chapter, I think needs a more of a rewrite, possibly. It just wasn't as important this round. So some things like that will, with this process that we're gonna write in chapter 2 for how to more regular review and then update the MTP. Want to make it more of a living document as much as we can. So.
And you guys have some stuff about innovation, future, intelligent transportation.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, it might just
kind of
pulling all that into a separate section.
Yeah.
I think there's a few things still, some leftover things in some of the chapters that work where they are, but might be better served reorganized into a different section.
So this wasn't something that I picked up the notes that I sent you, but now you're talking about it. The project scoring criteria, is that attached as an appendix?
I would have to check, but
A separate policy document?
It's separate.
I think it's separate, but there will be a bunch of appendices.
Yeah.
And we're gonna, as part of we're gonna look through everything again, and when we figure out what all appendices there need to be, and make sure there's references to those as appropriate in the text. That wasn't something we got to in this first draft.
Given that the project scoring criteria in the process leads into the project list in the MPP, it kind of, I don't know, we never did it before.
There is, in chapter 2, there is a section that kind of summarizes that whole process. It talks about the development of the plan in that whole.
Yeah.
It talks about what financials we use. There's a project selection process that summarizes it. But I think it would be better we'll add it as an appendix and just say, hey, if you want to read the full process, go to appendix, whatever, and here's where it details everything. Anita or Cal, is there anyone online that's made comments or asked questions?
There are 12 individuals online,
Okay.
and we've asked if they would like to make any comments or questions, and no one has responded.
Great.
Oh, Bobby Lewis just raised his hand.
Go ahead, Bobby.
Yes, James, sorry for not being there this morning. I have a question on exhibit 3.8 in the population projections. And I noticed that you're showing Copper's Cove at 40,000 in 2050. And we're already at 40,000. So our projected numbers are over 40,000 this month with the new construction starts we had. We've been tracking them pretty consistently.
I mean, it seems like you can hear us, but I don't think we can hear you. Working on the audio in here.
Do we have the, or reference the habitat conservation plan in here?
I don't believe so, but we can make sure. There's a whole section on endangered species. We'll add it.
There is dangerous species there in the environment.
The endangered, yeah.
Endangered
species.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, we just need to, make sure we accounted for the regional habitat conservation plan that Doug and Coriel are doing.
Volume should be working now. Sound and volume.
Okay. Bobby, try again.
Oh, can you hear me now, James?
Yes, we can hear you now.
Perfect. So I have a comment on chapter 3 and the population projections. I think it's 3.8. And you're showing Toppers Cove at 40,000 in year 2050, and we are already at 40,000 in 2024.
Okay, well, we can take another look at that. I want to say some of those projections were based off of a document that we got 2 years ago from the Texas Demographer's Office as part of our TDM update. And so we'll double check that. And I know there were some conversations going back and forth. If that's what it says is 40,000, we can reach out to them and see if there's an updated estimate or double check the website, because if it's 40,000 now, you're definitely gonna be more than that in 20 years.
Right.
Temple's probably gonna get 100,000 in the next 5 years, let alone 2050.
Yeah, we can review all those
Yeah.
demographic numbers.
Yeah, you get 66,000. And I know you get, this is TAS population.
Well, that should be 2020 census.
Yeah, 2020 census, we were 82,000.
Okay, we'll double check all those too.
Yeah, we just need to verify those numbers because they look a little low.
Thing is, 2 years ago, I mean, 3 years ago, the estimates going to be very different.
Yeah.
Our growth has been phenomenal. The one comment I had on that was one table, where you've only got the county population for Bell County, and you've got some partial numbers for Coriel and Lampasas. You know, given that a lot of that population that is going to feed into our road system for the MPO, and just for comparison's sake, it might be worth including, you know, maybe there's just two roads, the population of Coriel County that's in the MPO, and then here's the overall population of the county.
Or we can do, yeah, the MSA by county.
Sure. Because I think it leaves something, which page was it?
Is that
So I find it.
3.1
Yeah, so
is the first page.
that's it, yeah. Yeah, because you're going down and you're able to get a sense of, you know, Temple versus Cove versus, you know, the overall region. Then you get down to Coriel County, it's got these NAs, these blanks. It leaves you asking questions. And, you know, we have looked at, and I've got another comment on the boundary expansion, because we have looked at expanding to include both counties.
Mhm.
So if we're looking at that, then we should probably know what those numbers are.
Yeah, we'll do that.
So I've got a question on the boundary expansion, because, and I've been trying to look and I just can't find the past agenda or the packet. But I thought we voted to go ahead as part of the UCA smoothing, to expand that boundary, just nudge it off by State Highway 9? Is that map in the thing?
It is not. We actually have a call this week or next week with TxDOT
Okay.
talking about the process.
That has to go to the governor's desk, doesn't it?
So
Might just be worth throwing a footnote on there that the policy board approved it, but there's a process to change it. But here's the current map.
yeah, we can do that too.
And most of the rest of mine were reformatting stuff, getting the tables, the headings all cleaned up. So that's, but like you said, you wanted to get the content. You'll work on the format.
Yeah.
Like I said, I sent all those to you.
Okay. Cool.
And it'd be nice if you had local photos from a local photographer, in the scenic portions instead of Marble Falls. I don't know if I know anybody.
We will be looking for better improved photos from the local area. So
If you have some,
if you know somebody or you have some,
Yeah, send some. This is maybe less than an MPP thing, but we're looking at Greyhound and Amtrak. There was another zoning case that started to come up. What conversations do you have with Greyhound? Do you ever? And I'm not trying to put you on the spot.
Yeah,
Yeah.
really virtually nothing.
Yeah. Someone made the case, well, Greyhound serves Santa Fe Plaza. No, they don't. They pick them up on the sidewalk next to Whataburger.
Yeah. Not really.
So I don't know if that's something that you or I or James can find somebody from Greyhound that's open to talk, if there's anything.
do we?
No, maybe, like I said, this may not be an MPP workshop.
Well,
Do you have a contact with Greyhound?
No. I mean, it's just a matter of reaching out, seeing if there's anyone.
Okay.
we're doing some things future-wise, most likely down in that Santa Fe Plaza area. When we really pull the trigger on some of that stuff, I think there will be a connection. We just, if nothing else, to coordinate our schedules, make sure
Right.
when they come,
Mhm.
go, coordinates well with when we come and go.
Yeah.
So you don't leave people standing there long periods of time, that kind of thing.
When we wrap up here, I'll visit with you, because the case that I'm talking about, guys thinking about this, it's going to be adjustment this afternoon. It's a development variance that they're getting, but it started us thinking about the Temple trolley that you guys have been working on.
Yeah.
So there might be an opportunity, might be something to look at. I'll visit with you afterwards.
Anybody else?
I'll say the one last thing, and this is, again, it's a formatting thing. Some of the pages, it seemed like the top margin was pushed way down, a lot of white space, and there were some areas where if the text was to flow up, or the tables were to flow up, and then the text, you could keep the text describing that table on the same page. But having done this myself, I know what a pain in the butt it can be, because you change one page and it throws everything off. You got to insert section breaks. But that might be something to look at as you go.
yeah, we'll look at that. Definitely. No, we just sent this out on Fridays, had 3-4 days to look at it. It's definitely not the last opportunity. We did start public engagement on Monday, and then we'll run through July 17th. We have 3 meetings scheduled, one in Parker Heights, one in Cove, and then one here. We can schedule more. We don't have one in Temple, so if you can look at one, we have one in Temple.
We'd love to have something.
Yeah, and then you have some more time in the coming weeks to take a look at things and send in more comments, please do so. That's all staff really has, unless there are any last comments, questions.
Don't have any on the MTP, I know. I'll ask the question because my friends. The funding scenario in Cat 2, the UTP. I know you don't. A really good question. We would like to know what fiscal year that's going to get programmed to students and
Okay.
because just quickly, understand some of that's not in your control. But they're going through budget amendments right now to get next year's, the whole big, capital B budget. So that's why they're pestering me. Even if it's,
We can maybe provide, like, it's gonna be these 2 fiscal years.
which is what I've.
We can provide that.
Yeah.
We'll look at that and follow up.
All the jurisdictions.
Yeah.
We'll work on it. I'm sure I'm not the one customer.
All right, well, I think we can stop recording. Kelly and Nina, unless there are any, Bobby or anyone else online, last comments? I'll go to the adjourn slide. There. Great, thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
The